So I lost a bit of momentum. People always say that, we lost a bit of momentum. I lost my momentum. It's not really even like that. I understand why people say that. It's like you build up momentum. You build up a habit, and then you're doing it and it feels easier and easier. That does feel like momentum. But I don't really think momentum's a real thing. If momentum's a real thing and it was a good analogy for the idea of creative practice or habit, then it'd be difficult to stop. You know, the image of the boulder down the hill. It's hard to stop a boulder. That is the image you want to have in momentum. But it's not like that. And if you do think it's like that, you're probably going to get complacent and, like me, mess it up. So I was doing pretty good posting these videos, these YouTube videos. I was getting into a rhythm. I wanted it to be once a week, but it wasn't. But still, it was like once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks. And then I went on some summer holidays, a couple of weeks away, and I just lost my rhythm. So anyway, here we are back again. I'm not going to say build up momentum, just something like habit. Truth is, I love painting, but I hate editing videos. So I'm going to try make these next few videos with minimal editing. I'll probably won't, I'll probably get sucked in and end up doing loads. Another problem that I've got is that I've got all these old paintings that I have recordings of. I have all these new paintings I'm working on now, but I feel like I need to work through these old ones. And that's a little bit boring. So I'm back. Try to think of it as like a summer holiday, an unexpected, unannounced summer break. So today's a couple of paintings and some more thoughts on this idea of momentum, practice, and something about this idea of like, I was thinking the other day about, talent. What is talent? Is that even real? We'll talk about it today. You may recognize this painting if you've been watching all the videos on my channel. This was actually the last painting I posted. Sometimes post these full unedited process painting videos, several hours long. This is one of them. But I think a few complaints, and with good reason, because the autofocus on this was all over the place. The problem is I've got those two paintings in the background, and while it is validating to know that at least my paintings do resemble human faces, it is a bit annoying in this case, so I'll try fix that for any future uploads. Sorry about that. But this painting is one of the ones in that little sketchbook. It's cracking on, the little sketchbook. We're getting ready to finish it up and do a tour, which I'm really looking forward to. I like these little pocket sketchbook paintings. I also love to fill a sketchbook up with paintings. I've posted some previous tours of sketchbooks full of oil paintings, but every time I do this I'm thinking about the Nicholas Uribe sketchbook of this size, the same moleskin sketchbook that he filled with paintings, beautiful paintings that he then burned. He burned the whole sketchbook. I kind of love that. I love that idea that that's what sketchbooks are for, non-precious, just about the making, no attachment to the actual objects. I like that a lot. It's like those sand mandalas that Buddhist monks make. The one that I think Werner Herzog made a documentary about it, The Wheel of Time. Spending a huge amount of time on something just to destroy it. Yeah, I do quite like that idea. However, I think a criticism of that in this case is that, we did record it, so we kind of live in an era now where the recording might be more important than the object anyway. It's not like those Buddhist monks who are also live streaming or recording the process to then monetize that. So while I'm drawn to that idea, I think in both of these cases it's not quite the same. It reminds me of something I read recently about what would be radical artwork now. So this person, I can't remember who it was, suggested that just leaving your house, if I left my house here in Glasgow and walked all the way to Tehran and back again, but then I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone. None of my friends, not my family. I didn't record it. I didn't write it down. I just did it. Just did it. No witnesses. It's like, that's the most radical thing you can do now, because everything's so based on the sharing, and almost all activities, including painting, become about curation of some kind of public image. Maybe to some extent it was always like that, but it's just a bit sharper now. So I like that idea that, something radical is something which is unseen. That's not what this is, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this. The painting, by the way, is a Canyo reference, and it's just using the Zorn palette, which, to remind you, is just ivory black, cadmium red, although in this case Sennelier red, yellow ochre, and titanium white. Although I've been using this warm white from Michael Harding. It's really good. I really like it. It's just slightly takes the coldness out of the standard titanium white. And that's not going to make too much difference if you're just trying things out. There we go. There's the painting. Menacing little painting. Kind of worked out. It's quite interesting. You can see how, using the Zorn palette, you can use your ivory black and your yellow ochre to just about make a green in the shirt. There's just enough blue in the ivory black that you can get there, especially if it's put in contrast with red. Pew! For the rest of the video, I thought I'd just show a few more of these little pocket moleskin sketchbook paintings. But moving away from the Zorn, this is a much wider, more chromatic palette. But a similar thing, just another couple of heads. But I want to return to this idea of momentum and habit. And I think I'm going to share here, I think, the most important, the most significant advice for painting. I mean, it really is the secret hack, the fabled clickbait secret hack to painting. If you do one thing, do this. But really, this is it. It's about removing the barriers between yourself and getting started. If you have to pull out all the stuff out of the easel, get all your paints out, get all the brushes, clean the brushes, it's such a psychological jump that it's very hard to do. You might do it once or twice, but as soon as you feel tired, you won't want to do it. You either have to be very, very disciplined and just turn off your mind and get stuck in, or you have to remove the barriers as much as possible. So that's physical barriers are the easiest to deal with here. Set things up as much as possible. Get your paint squeezed out, have your easel set up, have something to paint on, have some references in mind. Too many times have I sat down to paint and just browsed references and not painted anything. Building habit, removing barriers, just making it easy and part of your life. But the other thing that's more difficult to stop is this idea of the psychological barrier, and that's maybe where the trap I got into. I had this idea that editing a video takes an awful long time, like it's going to take up my whole day, and that's because sometimes it does. Like, you just get stuck in, got a wee problem and try to fix it, or it just doesn't seem right. But just like painting, it doesn't have to take all day. That painting I just did there, okay, it's sped up obviously, but really it was only about half an hour. You can get quite a lot done in a short amount of time if you just set yourself the constraints. But you'll never get anything done if you don't get started. So I had to do that little thing where I just turn off my brain, sit down at the computer, open Premiere Pro and just do it. I'm going to be trying to force myself that way. So I'm going to relearn it, this secret lesson about Premiere Pro, because I already know about painting. And then the other thing I said I would talk about, but I haven't yet, is this idea is similar to this myth of momentum, is also talent. And this just comes off the back of a conversation I was having with someone about this idea of talent and what talent was. They were sort of making the claim that you're born with talent or don't have talent. can see that to be some extent kind of true. There are obviously some people who are just naturally good at one thing over the other. But I've always suspected there's something else at play, like something more important, something bigger. And I think I see that in my own children as they change from babies into little people with their own clear interests and skills. Is that the things that you get better at are the things you're just naturally interested in. So it might not be that talent is some like gift that you can do something. And by the way, I'm not trying to say that I'm some kind of talent. I have some kind of talent, or I think I'm talented. I'm actively arguing against the idea. I think it's much more that your talent is actually just an interest in something. If you have an interest in something, you look at it closer, you do it more, you're drawn to it more, you try and work it out more. If I'm not interested in something, I just don't look at it in the same way. I don't see the mechanics and how it works. I'm not interested. If I change my mind later and decide that, oh, actually I do want to do that thing that I haven't been interested in my whole life, I find I'm not very good at it. Of course, because I haven't been interested in it. So I do think that talent is more kind of interest. And interest, much like this question of momentum and habit, it is something you can learn and practice. You can remove the barriers and get into a kind of habit. When you do things, it becomes part of your day. But don't fall into the mistake that I did, and everyone will. In fact, do fall into the mistake. Everybody does. Don't worry about it. Occasionally you do stop. Ultimately, what you have to watch out for is not to rely on this sense of momentum, that the boulder is going to keep rolling. It definitely doesn't. You have to actively do it. You know, if people go to the gym, you know that, right? It's so easy to stop. You have to do it when you don't want to do it. And the only people that do things even when they don't want to do it is because they have some kind of love or interest for it. And ultimately, I think that's what talent is. This head on the right, this is quite a good fun one. I can't remember where I saw it, just some social media video. Just a real rager. And it looks like I exaggerated the colour of the face, but I didn't.